Gate agent tears up black girl's Visa One call later. $1 billion in assets are frozen. Her scream sliced through the airport's hum, a raw wound laid bare. Aisha Carter, 24, stood trembling, her shredded visa in her hand, her dreams of studying abroad now confetti on the counter. The gate agent, a man with a name tag reading Gary, smirked, his voice dripping with disdain. "You don't belong on this flight," he'd said, tearing her visa with deliberate cruelty. The crowd at gate 17 froze, their murmurs swallowed by the weight of his act. Aisha's heart pounded, her breath shallow, but her eyes burned with a fire that refused to be snuffed out. This wasn't just a document, it was her future, her escape from a world that had tried to cage her since birth. Born in a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, Aisha had clawed her way to this moment. A full scholarship to a prestigious university in Paris awaited her, a beacon of hope after years of systemic barriers. Her mother's late-night shifts as a nurse, her father's endless hustle as a mechanic feed all poured into this dream. Now, Gary's act of malice threatened to unravel it all. "You're not going anywhere," he repeated, tossing the scraps aside. The crowd stirred, some whispering, others turning away. A white woman in a business suit muttered, "She must have done something." A black teenager nearby clenched his fists, his eyes locked on Aisha. The air crackled with the unspoken. This wasn't just about a visa. It was about power, about who gets to decide who belongs. Aisha's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. She wasn't just a student. She was a fighter, raised on stories of ancestors who'd faced worse and still stood tall. She dialed a number she'd hoped never to use, her voice steady despite the chaos in her chest. "Uncle Marcus," she said, "it's happening again." Marcus Carter wasn't just family, was a legend. A civil rights attorney who'd taken down corporations and governments. He wielded influence like a sword. Within minutes, he was on the line with the airline CEO, his voice calm but lethal. "You have 1 hour to fix this, or I freeze every asset your company has." The CEO laughed, thinking it a bluff. Marcus didn't bluff. Back at the gate, Gary's smirk faded as his supervisor rushed over, phone in hand, face pale. "What did you do?" she hissed. Aisha stood taller, her gaze locked on Gary, who now avoided her eyes. The crowd's whispers grew louder, phones emerging to capture the scene. Aisha's pain was no longer hers. Allanite was a spark, igniting something bigger. Marcus's call triggered a chain reaction. By the time Aisha's plane was scheduled to board, the airline's parent company faced a legal onslaught. Marcus's firm, backed by a network of activists, filed an emergency injunction, citing racial discrimination. A federal judge, roused from dinner, signed off on a temporary freeze of the airline's $1 billion in assets. The news hit X like wildfire. Airline grounded after gate agent's racist act. Gary was escorted away, his badge confiscated, his career in ashes. The supervisor, scrambling, offered Aisha a new visa and a first-class seat. But Aisha didn't move. "This isn't about me anymore," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "This is about every black girl who's been told she doesn't belong." The crowd parted as a new figure approached, a lawyer from Marcus's firm, carrying a freshly printed visa and a promise. "We're not done," she told Aisha. "This airline will answer for every policy that let this happen." Aisha nodded, her resolve hardening. She boarded the plane, not as a victim, but as a force. In Paris, Aisha thrived, her story fueling her studies in international law. Back home, the airline faced a class action lawsuit, its reputation in tatters. Gary's name became a cautionary tale, whispered in HR trainings. But the real victory was quieter. The black teenager from the gate, inspired by Aisha's defiance, applied to law school. The white woman in the suit, shaken by her own assumptions, donated to a scholarship fund for black students. Aisha's torn visa became a symbol, framed in her dorm room, a reminder that one act of cruelty could spark a revolution. Her story wasn't just about retribution, it was about humanity, about the courage to stand when the world tries to push you down. And somewhere, in the quiet of a Chicago evening, her parents smiled, knowing their daughter had not only survived but had changed the game. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.